Hello and welcome to Quickfire Reviews, your no BS, straight to the point entertainment review channel. In today's video, we're checking out the early access open beta version of Diablo IV. Make sure you stick around to the end so you can hear my full rating of the game so far, but first, let's get into it. So this game kicks off and takes place after the previous Diablo games. A group of cultists have resurrected a demon mother, Lilith, and it's your job as a demon slayer to track her down. If you've never played Diablo before, they are a top-down visual style heavy RPG. There's a really in-depth progression system, and you have the ability to build your character as you see fit. One of the things that I love about Diablo games is the chaos that can happen on screen. They will just hit you with mob after mob after mob, and you'll be encountering hordes of enemies at any given time. You'll collect gear, gain experience, level up your character, learn new skills, and progress through the story. There's also an open world and multiplayer aspect of this, so you can party up with your friends and head into your favorite dungeon. So my first impression of the visuals of this game is that they're really good. They definitely look and feel next generation. The combat is super flashy. There's lots of awesome effects on screen when you're in battle. The monster design is cool. The character design is cool. It looks great. There's also a really high level of detail in the animations and the environments as you move through them. Each environment does feel distinct and its own, and the characters, even the NPCs that you talk to, feel like they have personality in their own visual style. The enemy design is also really cool, although it does get a little bit repetitive because you will start to encounter the same mobs over and over. Alright, so let's talk about the gameplay. Diablo IV kicks off with a character creation, so the first thing you get to do is choose your class. I opted for the Barbarian, who focuses on melee combat and can wield a ton of different weapons. But you can also choose a Rogue, for example, who can do both melee and long-range attacks, as well as stealth attacks. A Sorcerer, who, pretty self-explanatory, is a magic wielder. You can do a Druid, who shapeshifts into different types of monsters or beasts, and also bring companions into battle. And then finally, a Necromancer who uses different types of magic to raise the dead and fight in battle. Now, I will say both the Druid and Necromancer classes are supposed to be included in this early access, but for some reason they were unavailable when I went to create a character. I actually wanted to try out the Necromancer, but opted for the Barbarian when I couldn't select it. Once you finish picking your class, you're going to go into the character creator, which is okay. It's not amazing, but it's not terrible either. But there are some cool customizations you can do to make this character feel like it's your own. Anytime I use a character creator, I try to create my own likeness in the game, and unfortunately with the Barbarian, those dudes are way too jacked. I think I'm in decent shape, but those dudes are a lot bigger than I am, so couldn't do it in this game, but that's okay. Once you finish creating your character, you're immediately plopped into the story of the game and the action kicks off right away. The combat in this game feels great, it feels smooth, it feels intuitive, and a little chaotic at times, which is awesome. You are given two different modes to play this beta in, either like a normal mode or a hard mode. I opted for the hard mode so that I could get the full experience. And I will say that at sometimes the combat was actually kind of challenging. I normally don't find these games, at least as you're progressing through the main story, all that hard. But I died twice in my time with the beta so far, both times at bosses. There were specific mechanics I had to learn, and clearly didn't learn them fast enough, so I liked that there was a bit of a challenge here too. I think in these games there's a tendency to just run in and start using all your skills and not really think about what you're having to do. But one of the things I really enjoyed is that when I encountered a boss, I actually had to think about and pace my battle properly to learn the mechanics, avoid taking too much damage, and then ultimately defeat the boss. So it felt nice that there was some skill involved in that, because normally when you're just kind of going through a dungeon, you're fighting trash mobs, you're just exploring, the mobs are pretty easy. It's not until you get to some difficulty when you encounter the end of a dungeon and a boss. The character progression in this game is very well done. There's a ton of choice in skills. You can basically choose kind of your primary skills, what you want to focus your character on. There's a few different trees or builds for each different class. And it doesn't feel super restrictive. I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything if I chose one skill over another. I didn't feel like my progress was being hindered because maybe I didn't choose the right skills. It feels like they've really given you the flexibility to build your character the way you want, and that it's not necessarily going to affect the overall performance of your character, at least not at this point. Maybe in the end game it will, but at this point it didn't seem to do that. As you level up, you'll get skill points, which you can pump into different skills to unlock over time. You can also add additional traits or characteristics to those skills as well. Now, if you've watched any of my reviews, you know I always have problems with inventory systems. I hate cumbersome inventory systems. You definitely do get a lot of loot. That happens in all Diablo games, but I feel like they very clearly lay out what is trash, what is higher quality, so you'll have rare items, legendary items, for example. They're all color-coded, and it felt like when I acquired those pieces of gear, they actually improved my stats significantly, and it was worth changing and managing the inventory for them. You also have the ability to mark gear as trash in bulk so that you can sell it when you get to a merchant. One other side note on this is that my time so far with the game made the weapons actually feel quite distinctly different. Now, I don't know if that's reserved just for the barbarian, but if I was wielding a sword, it felt very different than a mace, for example. A nice touch that I think brings some additional replayability. There's also a ton of other stuff you can do, like craft, you can get mounts, you can interact through multiplayer. There's a lot of different options to keep you coming back to this game, and I think they crammed quite a bit into the beta. I know there's not going to be a ton of story revealed here, but I think there's a lot of different things you can do, so they've done a nice job in giving this to us in advance. Super happy to say the beta runs extremely well when you can get into it. I suspect if you start Googling online, you're going to find people that have been stuck in queues for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And that kinda sucks when you have to pay to get into the open beta. In this guy's humble opinion, if you're asking your player base to pay full price to get access to an early beta, you better make sure that they can get in. So I was a little disappointed, but not surprised to see that there were some backed up queue times. That said, once you're in, the game runs really well. I didn't have any technical problems other than a very small stutter here and there. Barely noticeable and not a big deal. I was able to run it at max settings and maintain my 60 FPS. They've also launched this with DLSS support, which some full release games haven't been able to do yet for some reason. Wild Hearts, I'm looking at you. So nice work that they were able to do this in the beta, and my understanding is it's going to be even improved in the full launch of the game. Alright, so with all of that in mind, if I had to give a score to the beta based on what I think the full game is going to look like, Quickfire Reviews is going to give Diablo IV, the early access beta, an 8 out of 10. I think you're going to enjoy your time with this game. If you're a fan of the Diablo series, you'll definitely get a lot of enjoyment out of it. I know there's some controversy about Diablo 3 versus Diablo 2, and it'll be interesting to see where people stack Diablo 4 in the list of Diablo titles. But honestly, it's taken a while for us to get Diablo 4, and I hope that most people are going to be happy with what they get. But hey, I don't claim to be a Diablo expert. Maybe you're a hardcore Diablo player, you've played all the titles, dumped in thousands of hours, and you have a strong opinion on this. Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear how you feel this game stacks up against the others. Alright, so that wraps up my initial impressions of the early access beta. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Please do like and subscribe if you haven't already. We're trying to grow the channel, so everything helps. And I can't wait to see you in the next one. Quickfire out.